present here. I welcome each and every one of you to this Viksit Bharat District Level Youth Parliament 2026 on the topic 50 Years of Emergency Lessons for Indian Democracy. Date 27 February 2026. Time 12:30 p.m. Venue Audio Video Room, K Chang College. Let me also highlight the order of the program. Chairperson Ms. Y. Donina Jongpo, NSS Program Officer, K Chang College. National Anthem, followed by Keynote Address by Mr. C. Thang Nyo. Competition, prize distribution, vote of thanks by Ms. Alito Livi Sumi, NSS Program Officer, K Chang College, which will then be followed by refreshment. I now request everyone to stand on your feet for our national anthem.
भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाये तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे.
I now welcome Mr. C. Thang Nyo for the keynote address.
Good afternoon to all of you. My colleague, Ms. Tony, Principal Ma'am, my esteemed colleagues, the participants of Viksit Bharat today, media team, and the members who are present here today. I will be briefing and highlighting about the 50 years of emergency. So when we talk about 50 years of emergency, it is mainly emphasizing on the one particular emergency, whereas India had faced three national emergencies. The first national emergency was in 1962, Indo-China War. The second national emergency is in 1971, Indo-Pakistan War. However, today we are going to discuss about the 50 years of national emergency, which is only emphasizing on one particular, that is 1975 national emergency, which is not considered as an external aggression, but 1975 emergency is considered as an internal disturbance. So the other two, the first two emergency which had happened is mainly based on the external aggression, that is the national emergency. So the last emergency which had happened, that is an internal disturbance. So that external aggression can be happen anytime, even in the days to come, because India does not have a good relation with Pakistan, India does not have a good relation with China. So that external aggression can be happen anytime, even in the days to come. But when we talk about this national emergency, the 50 years of emergency, we are emphasizing on the 1975 emergency. That is the third emergency. It happened during the time of Indira Gandhi. So I will be briefing in a very nutshell on the base of what was the emergency about, why was it declared, what happened during emergency, how it ended, why is the 50 years milestone of this emergency celebrated today. So what was the emergency about? So today, 50 years of emergency refers to the 50th anniversary of national emergency that declared in 1975. It was declared by the Prime Minister Indira Gandhi during those time, and under the Article 372 of the Indian Constitution. She politely stated that this emergency is because of the internal disturbance as a reason. And today, we see that this 50 years or this current emergency, which has been a very nationwide discussion, this is one of the most debated topic across the country. And we also consider that this is one of the most debated, which is affecting the country's democratic in history. So next, why was it declared? Several political and social crises led to the decision, like why it has declared. A court verdict by the Allahabad High Court that found Indira Gandhi of electoral malpractice. When it comes to electoral malpractice, is cheating on the election. Maybe those times they were using that ballot paper. So when the court verdict is given, Allahabad High Court verdict has given, they found guilty that ballot paper, the fake ballot papers of winning the election. That was one of the reasons it, again. Next is massive protests led by the opposition leader like J.P. Narayan that has led to the demanding of her resignation. Rising inflation means after the national emergency with Pakistan in 1971, the inflation has been continuously rising. Rising unemployment rate. Unemployment, when we talk about it, it's not about the job. It is about the labor and the farmer where they couldn't able to find the, to work and live during those times. And after all these things, Indira Gandhi made the decision where that verdict has been given and where she could not able to control by her power, and she made the decision that to use the cohesive power and the unlawful arrest of the people. She ordered to arrest thousands of people, especially the opposition. Okay, like during those times, the opposition leader L.K. Advani, Atal Bihari Vajpayee, J.P. Narayan, they were also arrested during this emergency. So, situation has become uncontrolled and declared emergency, or because of the internal disturbance. Next, we have what had happened during this emergency. What had happened during this emergency? During this emergency, extraordinary power were used by the government. Number one, they made the suspension of fundamental rights where people are not allowed to make freedom of speech and expression, even right to life were restricted. Second, we have continuously arrest of the opposition leaders, as I told. Press censorship. Press censorship means like even the newspaper, the media, the institution, if they want to publish any news, they have to get the approval from the government those times after the emergency. So there's a press censorship. Even the newspaper, they cannot release anything without the approval of the government after the emergency. Forced sterilization campaign. Whatever they made any decision, that government has to do with that their decision. Next, we have how it ended this emergency. Election we are called in 1977. When the term is over, election called in 1977, and the ruling government, that is INC, Indian National Congress, they lost power at this election. And opposition coalition of political parties won the election led by Janata Party. Today Janata Party we call as a BJP, Bharatiya Janata Party. So after that, the practice of this emergency has completely wiped out by the government. So this emergency lasted 1975 to 1977, or we also call it, it lasted for 21 months of this emergency. And I'm coming to the end part. Why is the 50 years milestone this emergency celebrated today? So it has been sparked, okay, it has been sparked today in a very nationwide discussion today. So it has considered today dark phase of this emergency, which has been affecting today. It is also called as the Dragonan law that they applied, and it is also used as a political tool by the maybe present government or particular government. And if the government change, this topic may also disappear. So something like that we have today. So current government, they talk about the lesson to be learned from this emergency is protection of democracy, limits of executive power, freedom of the press, constitutional safeguard, lesson for future government. So today, many political thinkers, philosophers, scholars, they talk about this 50 years of emergency is one of the most challenging factor that is in the Indian democracy, in a both negative and positive impact. So we will hear negative and positive impact from the participants today. Negative impact will be shared by this BJP government, positive impact will be shared by the Congress government. So we will hear from them. So this is how the 50 years of emergency has been affecting, and it's a nationwide discussion today. So more details we will hear from the participants about the negative and positive impacts. So this is a short keynote of the 50 years of emergency. Some rules for the participants. You please listen very carefully. In the first place, speaker will address to the House. Second, you will have only 3 minutes to speak. When the 3 minutes, there will be no warning bell. When the 3 minutes is over, you will get a bell. So if you want to end your speech, you will get 5 seconds to end your speech. 5 seconds after the bell. Okay, only 5 seconds. And when you have to, when your turn to speak, you have to first say the speaker, sir. You don't say any other respected word, any other things. You say speaker, sir, and come to the point. And first we'll get chance by the BJP ruling party, and then Congress. Alternately, they will get first BJP, Congress to speak this topic. So I wish all of you all the best. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your enlightening keynote address. Without further delay, we shall now start with the competition.
Honorable members, मैं आप सभी का विकसित भारत युवा संसद के इस सत्र में हार्दिक स्वागत करता हूं। The House will now come to the order. All the honorable members are requested to take their respective seats and maintain the decorum, dignity of the House. The proceedings are hereby commenced. We shall now proceed with the motion, 50 years of emergency, lesson for Indian democracy. Let me read out the party from both the party names. From opposition party, Son Kim, Mosaba Chang, Khunou Lam, Chonglitopong, Shellem N Khiamnkungan, and Lam P, Sangmai Lenla. From the ruling party, Shelula K Chang, Y Yongkai Phom, Bamo Yemjong B, Myang Soba Chang, Kichinkam El Yumkyungar, Thongoi El, Mukhabati Sumi. The chair has now recognized the member of ruling party leader to initiate the debate.
National emergency was not a mistake, but a murder of the Indian Constitution. The Constitution that took 2 years, 11 months and 18 days. It was a crime against the people of its own country. Honorable Speaker, on that 25th June 1975, the then Prime Minister Indira Gandhi, she declared national emergency. The reason behind it, the reality is that there was a call for resignations. The resignations call was louder and frequent, very frequent, and so she was in trouble as she has won the 1971 general elections using multiple electoral malpractices. The Allahabad High Court found her guilty, Honorable Speaker. She clearly violated Part 15, Article 324, Motor Code of Conduct, and also the Representations of the People Act 1951, Section 123 and 125. The opposition may justify emergency by quoting Article 352, 358, 359, but Honorable Speaker, claiming that it is a constitutional valid, but it is not, Honorable Speaker. Article 352 of the Indian Constitution, Proclamation of Emergency, and also Article 356, Presidential Rule. It was misused, Honorable Speaker. And also Article 358, suspension of Article 19, which silenced the voices of many Indian citizens. Such ko rok diya or awazon ko band kar diya. Article 359, suspension of fundamental rights, where thousands and thousands of citizens were arrested and will not defend their own rights, Honorable Speaker. Article 20 and 21, it was said that it was remain untouched, but the civil liberties of Indians were curtailed, Honorable Speaker. Press and media, which is considered to be the fourth stage of democracy, was completely banned, and thousands and thousands of oppositions, thousands of citizens were arrested without a trial. Article 32, constitutional remedy, which is considered to harden the soul. And also Article 226, judicial rights, were weakened, leaving people powerless. The opposition may claim the emergency promoted national unity, but if it is true, why didn't they even consult the cabinet before proclaiming the emergency, Honorable Speaker? During the emergency, strict control for money was implemented. They also talk about the population control of development during the emergency, but millions and millions of people were sterilized. And so, Honorable Speaker, as a youth of Viksit Bharat, we raise voice today, not to remember the past, but to protect the future. Thank you, Jai Hind.
Thank you for sharing your views. The chair now calls upon the member, Mr. Son Kim, from the opposition bench. Please share your views.
आदरणीय निर्णय यागन और मेरी प्यारे मित्रों, आज मैं यहाँ किसी भी राजनीतिक दल की पक्ष से या फिर उनके दृष्टिकोण से अपनी बात प्रस्तुत नहीं करने वाली। यदि तथ्य और आग्रह में आप सबके सामने आपकी उन प्रमाण की दौर से और आपकी प्रदान करने वाली हूँ, आपातकाल जिसकी हम बात करते हैं, आपातकाल जिसकी हम पढ़ाई करते हैं, आज जिसकी हम चर्चा करते हैं, 50 साल की बात भी 1975 से 1977 तक जो हम लोग ने कर्मचारी उठाई, जो आवाज से जो चंदे की बातें की, जितना संपत्ति, जितना आवश्यकता निकला, उसमें से हम लोग को यह सीखने को मिलता है कि जो काम पहले किया था, जिसकी आपातकाल की वस्त, जिसकी विश्वास की हमने, इसके बारे में जानने से पहले हम लोग को यह याद रखना होगा कि हमारे श्री जयप्रकाश नारायण जी, जिनको हम लोकनायक से भी जानते हैं या फिर उसको जेबीपी बुलाया जाता है, उसकी काम, उसकी संपूर्ण क्रांति, उसकी नाव निर्माण आंदोलन की वजह से ही ये आज हमारे सामने प्रस्तुत हुई। पहले हमें यह जानना चाहिए कि फरवरी 9 को 1974 को जब जिमान भाई पटेल अपनी कुर्सी पे जब वो मंत्री बना, जब वो गुजरात पे थी, तो स्टूडेंट्स के एलिगेशंस की वजह से युवा पीढ़ी जो उन्होंने आवाज उठाई थी, जो उनकी काम, जो उनकी मकसद, जो उनकी लक्ष्य था, वे उनकी प्रभाव की वजह से वो अपनी कुर्सी से इस्तीफा दे दी। ये एक बात होती है जिसे हम आज की जनरेशन को पता होना चाहिए कि उसी समय पे कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन के बारे में बात की तो उसका कल्पना क्या था। आज हम लोगों को यह जानना होगा कि आर्टिकल 51(1)(a) घोषित किया गया था, एंड उसके ऊपर हम लोग को यह पता करना होगा कि उसके होने से पहले हम लोग को यह पता चला कि हमारी जो एक भारत में जब हम लोग एक पार्टी डोमिनेंस की बात करी थी, जब उनकी जो मुकाम चल रहा था, तो उनकी वजह से हम लोग को मल्टी पार्टी सिस्टम देखने को मिला। ये विरासत में मैं आदेश नहीं बल्कि एक समझौता करना चाहता हूँ कि इनकी वजह से हम लोगों को गवर्नर एलबी सिंह की वजह से कुछ ऐसा सीखने को मिला जो मैं आप सभी को आज पेश करना चाहता हूँ। आज हम लोग को यह पता रखना होगा कि नाव निर्माण मूवमेंट जो पहले हुआ था, जो कि साल 1974 को था, उसकी होने के बाद 1975 से 1977 तक हम लोग को यह याद रखना होगा कि उसके दौरान जो हमारी इंडो नागा पॉलिटिकल इशू जो हुआ था, उसके बारे में हम लोग को जानने से पहले शिलोंग एकॉर्ड के बारे में तो सुना ही होगा आप सबने। तो पहले शिलोंग एकॉर्ड, ओके, टू एंड दिस दबाई गई थी आवाज पर इरादे नहीं टूटी, दबाई गई थी आवाज पर इरादे नहीं टूटे। 50 साल की बात भी बात वही रही जो आज रही है। जनता की वजह से लोकतंत्र चलता है, बिना जनता की लोकतंत्र आज आजाद नहीं होता। धन्यवाद।
माननीय अध्यक्ष महोदय, स्पीकर सर, बड़े बड़े बातें करने सुनने में अच्छे लगते हैं, लेकिन हकीकत में सेहत के लिए बहुत हानिकारक होते हैं। मैं सीधा मुद्दे पे आऊंगा। 50 years ago, during the emergency between 1975 to 1977, declared by Indira Gandhi, many basic rights of citizens were stopped. मतलब डेमोक्रेसी को ही बदल दिया, संविधान को ही बदल दिया, हमारा हक झील लिया। Many opposition leaders were arrested, many newspapers were controlled, and people could not speak freely against the government. It was like a football match, playing a football match where a referee is supporting only one player team, but remaining player teams were completely removed. And there was no fair match. And a match without a fear, it is, there's no spirit in that particular match. Just like this, democracy should be fair. Democracy needs fairness, freedom, and equal opportunity. And today, under the leadership of Narendra Modi, our government is committed to democracy and making sure that such situation should not happen again in India. चंदा जो है सरकार की नहीं, बल्कि सरकार चंदा की होना चाहिए, क्योंकि सरकार ने चंदा नहीं उठाया, लेकिन चंदा ने सरकार को चुना है। इसीलिए हम सबको सरकार की ताकत पर ध्यान देने की बजाय हमें संविधान की दिए गए कानूनी संविधान पर ध्यान देना चाहिए। जय हिंद।
Now we shall hear from the ruling party, Shelula K Chang.
Honorable Speaker, आपकी अनुमति से मैं बोलना चाहता हूँ, and to remind the House of the member in history. Today we speak about 50 years of emergency in India, declared by Prime Minister Indira Gandhi. From June 25, 1975 to March 21, 1977, is a period of 10 remember for its controversial and authoritarian aspect. Honorable Speaker, आज पूरा हिंदुस्तान, पूरा देश में आग की तरह फैल रहा है हमारा गलतियों को। Honorable Speaker, लेकिन सच्चाई क्या है? भारत 1975 में पॉलिटिकल क्राइसिस से गुजर रहा था। हर जगह प्रोटेस्ट, देश एक ब्रेकडाउन की तरफ चल रहा था। अब ऐसे में अगर एक पॉलिटिकल लीडर इमरजेंसी डिक्लेयर कर है, तो क्या वो देश को बचाने के लिए कोशिश नहीं है? Honorable Speaker, even though India was under emergency, bureaucracy became accountable. Government office run on time. Yes, right were suspended, but it was necessary to use in exceptional time. Honorable Speaker, just as other democracies have done in the past, France declared emergency after their attack. So why is India cautioning for using its own constitutional right? If democracy was destroyed, how did election happen in 1977? Honorable Speaker, the government stepped down, the constitution remained. Honorable Speaker, we are living in a democratic country. Let us reflect on the emergency from a third perspective. Honorable Speaker, but today, ruling BJP government revisited the emergency period in an attempt to shame us. During the emergency period, the 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act of 1976 was enacted. The words socialist, secular, and integrity were inserted into the preamble. Today, socialist and secular stand as the moral pillar of our Constitution. Fundamental duties were incorporated under Article 51A. Honorable Speaker, after the emergency ended, the 44th Constitutional Amendment was passed by the new government. The amendment reversed certain axes and product Article 19 more strongly. Honorable Speaker, we proudly said we are living in a democratic country, but even the banner itself reflects dictatorship. Why only motivates in the banner? We are the faces of other leaders who shape in the democratic journey. Honorable Speaker, it raises an uncomfortable question about the spirit of the democracy. While he is the current Prime Minister of India, does not mean the dominance of one image or one narrative. It is the celebration of diverse voice, share power, and respect for history, Honorable Speaker. Today we must remember Jaya Vargashinarian, who suffered during the dark day of emergency. To defend the democratic value, Honorable Speaker, media is the fourth pillar of democracy, meant to caution power and expose corruption. But why some media always favor ruling party instead of the people? It betrayed democracy itself. If the present government invoked the emergency as a dark chapter in India democracy, then the true test of democracy today lie in transparent accountability for electoral controversy, a media that caution, power without fear, and leadership that uphold institution over personality politics.
Thank you. The chair now recognizes the member of ruling party, Bamo Yemjong B. Please share your views.
Speaker, sir, as we reflect on 50 years since the national emergency of 1975, it is appropriate that we do so in balance, honesty, and in a clear sense of national responsibility. India, at the time, was a young democracy, navigating complex internal and external pressure. We had emerged from colonial rule only a few decades earlier. The Constitution of India provided robust framework, reflecting both idealisms and foresight. Yet, the events of June 1975 demonstrated that even the strongest constitutional system depends fundamentally on the wisdom, restraint, responsibility to those narrow nationalists entrusted with authority. Honorable Speaker, the Constitution of India was never designed as a weapon in the hands of those in power. It was created to protect the citizen. However, the government under the leadership of Indira Gandhi declared national emergency under Article 352 of the Indian Constitution on the ground of internal disturbance. Speaker, sir, the consequences of the emergency did not remain hidden within the borders of India. The world was watching. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights, adopted by the United Nations, also expressed great concern over the situation in India. Speaker, sir, when the international community, guided by the principle of United Nations, raises concern over the condition of fundamental freedoms in the world's largest democracy, it is not merely a political criticism. It is a moral challenge. It reflects that the suspension of fundamental rights, Article 14, Article 19, Article 21, and Article 22, was not only a domestic constitutional crisis, but also a serious threat in the matter of global human rights crisis. Honorable Speaker, it is both surprising and concerning that those who once presided to suspend the fundamental rights are now seek to lecture this House on the protection of democracy. Viksit Bharat, Honorable Speaker, 2047, cannot be built on selective memory. It cannot be built by ignoring the lesson of history. It must be built on accountability. It must be built on transparency, responsibility, and a clear sense of national responsibility. Thank you, Jai Hind.
Thank you for sharing your views. The chair now calls upon the member from the opposition bench, Khunou Lam.
Honorable Speaker, आज 1975 की इमरजेंसी पर उंगली उठाना बहुत आसान है। ऐसी कमरों में बैठकर किताबों की पन्नों को पलटकर तानाशाही का नारा लगाना बहुत आसान है, लेकिन सच्चाई क्या है? History is not just a collection of dates, it is the story of tough decisions. And in 1975, India wasn't just facing dissent, it was facing anarchy. When calls were made for the military to disobey orders and total revolution became a mass for total paralysis, a choice had to be made, save the government or save the nation. And Congress chose to save the nation. हमने वो गरबा खून दिया ताकि भारत की अखंडता सलामत रहे। आज मैं यहाँ सिर्फ कांग्रेस का पक्ष रखने नहीं आया हूँ, बल्कि उस शपथ की पद और उठाने आया हूँ जो अक्सर भुला दिया जाता है. Our critics, they forget that the emergency was not an extra constitutional act. It was invoked under Article 352, and it was a constitutional tool used to protect the Constitution itself. To speak of 1975, without speaking of the anarchy that preceded, is only to tell half the story. The decision to impose emergency was not born for a desire for power, but a duty to preserve the state of India as it was being pushed towards a precipice. Beyond restrictions, let's not forget and talk about the transformation. Through the 42nd Amendment, we, the Congress, enshrined secular and socialist into our preamble and introduced fundamental duties. क्योंकि बिना कर्तव्य की अधिकार अधूरी है. The 20-point program was a revolution for the marginalized, not just a scheme. We didn't just pass laws. We uprooted centuries of bonded labor, redistributed 12 lakh acres of land to the landless, and crushed the black marketing to ensure that the poor could afford to eat. By giving workers a seat at the table in factories, we delivered the grassroots socialism. This wasn't about seizing power. It was about giving it back to the people. This era of discipline also pushed India's space and nuclear boundaries, ensuring our head was held high globally. Listen closely, my dear opponents. No dictatorship in history has ever voluntarily called for elections, laws, and then peacefully handed the keys to the kingdom. By submitting to the people's mandate, we proved that the Congress Party's commitment to the ballot box is absolute and eternal. विकसित भारत की बात करें, fellow delegates, एक विकसित भारत के लिए एक मजबूत स्टेट, एक डिसिप्लिन सोसाइटी और एक सेक्युलर डील की जरूरत है. इमरजेंसी ने हमें सिखाया कि लोकतंत्र एक कीमती और नाजुक लाव है. हमने सिर्फ सरकार नहीं बचाया, हमने हिंदुस्तान की रात को मजबूत किया ताकि भारत आज आगे जा सके. जय हिंद, जय भारत.
The chair now recognizes the ruling member, Myang Suba, to please take your stage.
Thank you, Speaker Sir. The period 1975 to 1977 is one of the darkest chapters in the Indian democratic history. और इस पीरियड को काला दबा माना जाता है इंडियन डेमोक्रेसी में. India, now the people of India is also called this day as a Samvidan Hatyar Divas, which means the Constitution Murder Day. During this period, the Constitution, the instruments in the Indian Constitution were set aside. The fundamental rights were suspended. Press freedom was extinguished. Many practical leaders, many political leaders, social workers, students, ordinary citizens were being arrested. Honorable Speaker, मैं एक पूछना चाहता हूँ कि in the democratic country like India, which is more powerful body, whether it is legislature or the judicial. मैं एक example बोलना चाहता हूँ कि before the happening of the emergency, regarding to the privy purse, which means the compensation to the Indian priestly states of the royal families. The Indira Gandhi ji, she claimed to remove this, but the Supreme Court has denied and make it null and void. The Constitution has been become as a dictatorship, which is called the constitutional dictatorship, because she used the Constitution's own provision to suspend democratic rights, creating a hybrid form of authoritarian rule. It has become the tool for her revenge. Now, Speaker Sir, I would like to conclude my speech saying that the declaration of the emergency was not lawfully based on the Article 52. Speaker, sir, however, this is unwise and irresponsible an act of revenge of the 10th Pradhan Mantri, Indira Gandhi. Thank you. Jai Hind.
The chair now goes upon the member Chonglitopong to please share your views.
Mr. Speaker, today when the members of the Bharatiya Janata Party repeatedly use the word emergency as their political weapon, so let us respond with facts. Yes, in 1975, under Article 252 of the Indian Constitution, Mrs. Indira Gandhi declared emergency. But let us ask, what was the situation? During this period, India was in chaos, there was a nationwide strike, high inflations, political instability, call for civil disobedience, and the country was not functioning normally. That is the reasons why emergency was declared within the constitutions, not from outside. Speaker, sir, allow me to speak about the outcomes of this emergency. Administrative order was restored during this period. Strike was reduced. Decision making became faster. Government office functioned efficiently. Speaker, sir, sometimes strong actions restore national stability. When it comes to economic stabilizations, inflation was brought under control during this period with strict measures, and the government suffering with rising prices feel relief. Speaker, sir, 20 programs mainly focus on poor during this period. Some of them are poverty reductions, land redistributions, rural developments. Speaker, sir, while critics talk about politics, the governments at that time focus on the welfare of the people. So, to those who said, especially BJP government, democracy was murdered, let me remind you that in 1977, elections were held. Power was changed peacefully and transferred, and the ruling party accepted the defeat. If democracy was murdered, then it would not have returned through ballot. That is not dictatorship, that is the constitutional corrections. So, it is very easy for the BJP governments to repeat emergency even after 50 years. But let me remind you that democracy is not only protected by remembering 1975 alone. Democracy is protected by respecting the institutions, protecting the federalisms, allowing the debate in parliament. Speaker, sir, history cannot be selectively used for political means. So emergency was a period of decisive governance during the national stabilities, and therefore, India did not break, India wouldn't, India moved forward, और यही है हमारे लोकतंत्र की ताकत. धन्यवाद.
Thank you. The chair now recognizes the member of ruling party, Keynote to please present your views.
Honorable Speaker, on the night of 25 June 1975, while India slept, democracy was put under arrest. No gangs, no foreign invention, no civil war, just a signature. Under the leadership of Indira Gandhi, a government elected by people decided that the people could no longer be trusted with freedom. Fundamental rights suspended, freedom of speech silent, opposition leaders jailed, the press censored. And why, Honorable Speaker? Because just days earlier, the Allahabad High Court had invalidated the Prime Minister's election. But instead of resignation, we saw repression. Instead of accountability, we saw dictatorship. Let this House be clear. The emergency was not about protecting India. It was about protecting the Congress power. Honorable Speaker, the most dangerous part was not even the arrest or not even the censorship. It was the Constitution that was used to begin the Constitution. Article 352 was invoked. Fundamental rights were suspended. Through the 42nd Amendment, power was centralized aggressively, weakening institutional balance. Congress today speak about saving democracy, but in 1975, when their authority was challenged, they treated with disloyalty. Power tested Congress, and Congress felt that test. Yes, people voted them out in 1977 general election. Democracy survived, yes, but not because of the government. It survived because citizens refused to surrender their spirit. Honorable Speaker, this is not about party politics. This is also to do about moral principles of Indian citizens. No leader is about the constitution. No party owns a nation. And no government has the right to silence fundamental rights. Let this youth parliament send a clear message. India belongs to its constitution, not to personalities, not to dynasties, not to political entitlement. Congress may try to rewrite the narrative, but they cannot erase the memory of 1975, which is stuck in the head of Indians. Thank you, Jay.
Honorable Speaker, sir, yes, the emergency of 1975 happened during Congress rule under Srimati Indira Gandhi ji. Yes, it was wrong, and we do not run from the truth. But I ask this House, are we invoking 1975 emergency to protect the democracy or to avoid answering of 2025? Let me remind this House, democracy is not only threatened when Article 352 is declared. It is threatened when power centralizes. It is threatened when institutions hesitate. And it is threatened when citizens are treated as anti-nationalists. I ask, is democracy today safe merely because no formal emergency has been announced? Honorable Speaker, sir, in Oding in 2021, 14 innocent civilians were killed. Was justice delivered with the urgency democracy demands? Still, the 14 families wait for justice. In Manipur, months of violence fractured communities and shook public confidence. Where was the sustained reassurance to the people of Northeast that every single Indian life holds equal constitutional values? Speaker, sir, democracy is not measured only by the majority strength in this House. It is measured by whether the weakest section of the people of this country is protected or not. Under our Honorable Prime Minister and the party Janata Party, demonetization happened in 2016. It disturbed small businesses, and the informal sector suffered deeply. Youth unemployment surged to 6.1%, the highest in the last 45 years. I ask, can a democracy be strong when its youth faces record joblessness? Can economic shock without preparation be called a reform? Economic dignity is a democratic dignity. Speaker, sir, many have spoke about the censorship of press. Yes, during the emergency, censorship was visible and direct. The pressure may be subtler today, but when journalists operate under fear, when security of power shrinks and the cushioning of authority becomes risky, are we not reminded of history? Yes, 1975 was a mistake, but in 1977, the people corrected it. They voted, power changed, and the system survived. Honorable Speaker, in India, sovereignty does not lie with the Prime Minister, nor with a particular party. It lies with the people. And the people decided in 1977 that was not the death of democracy, that was not the darkest time of democracy, that was democracy functioning. So I pronounce before this House, Speaker, sir, do not lecture us about democracy when it is weakening in real time. Do not lecture us about democracy when Oding waits for justice. Do not lecture us about democracy when Manipur waits for peace. Do not lecture us about democracy when youth wait for employment. Do not lecture us about democracy when religion is weaponized as a tool for electoral power. Speaker, sir, is this the democracy that we promised? When really no government is permanent, no leader is above the constitution, and in the end, the people of India decided. They decided in 1977 and will decide again. Jai.
The next intervention comes from the ruling party bench, Thongkwe El.
Respected Speaker, sir. Firstly, the assault on the soul of India. Speaker, sir, today we reflect on a 50-year-old scar on the face of Mother India. On June 25, 1975, not because of a national threat, but because of a personal threat to one's personal chair, the Congress Party turned our democracy into a dictatorship. The Allahabad High Court found the then Prime Minister guilty of electoral fraud. Instead of resigning with dignity, the Congress chose to imprison the Constitution. They did not just arrest leaders like Vajpayee and Advaniji. They arrested the freedom of every Indian citizen. To the opposition, I ask, How can the heirs of those who murdered democracy in 1975 claim to be its citizens in 2026? Secondly, institutional capture. The Congress legacy. The opposition speaks of saving institutions. Let us look at the record. It was the Congress that superseded judges. They bypassed senior Supreme Court just to appoint a committed judiciary. Muzzled the press. They cut off electricity to newspapers. If social media existed then, they would have banned the internet for 21 months. Amended the preamble. They changed the very soul of Indian constitution, while the entire opposition was behind bars. In contrast, our government has spent the last decade strengthening the last man in line. We have replaced slogan-based democracy with service-based democracy. Through the direct benefit transfer, DBT, and the digital revolution. Thirdly, the lesson never again. The biggest lesson of the emergency is that India is not a family property. It is a sovereign republic. The Congress party used the term internal disturbance to justify tyranny. Today, India is moving from disturbance to development. We have designated June 25 as Sapma Vedan Hadya Devas, not out of bitterness, but as a warning to future generations. We will never let a single dynasty hijack the mandate of 140 crore Indians again. Speaker Sir, democracy in India is not a gift from political party. It is the heartbeat of our civilization. While the Congress looks for internal disturbance, the BJP is building an Atma Nirbhar Bharat. I raise my case. Thank you.
Respected Speaker, Sir, today I stand here to present a perspective that is often misunderstood. The emergency declared in 1975 by Prime Minister Indira Gandhi, while history remembered it as a controversial period or a dark phase, we must also understand the context, necessity, and outcomes of that decision. Today, the opposition party raises the questions that Indira Gandhi uses dictatorship. Let me remind the opposition that a dictator does not go for election and accept defeat. Elections held again in 1977, and it was fair. Today, if you look in the present scenario, today's centralization of powers under the leadership of Narendra Modi, decisions being highly centralized, limited internal dissent, beginning of institutional independence. The question is, when power becomes concentrated without formal emergency, is that not a greater concern? Now, the suspension of medias. Yes, there was suspension of medias, but the suspension of media was because there was risk of information. It was to maintain public order and prevent the spread of content that covered incite violence and panic. That was temporarily suspended and it was lifted again. Today, if you look in the present scenario, even without formal emergency, indirect pressures on media are there. Issues as declining pressure freedom, raids on media houses, pressure on critical journalists, and increasing self-censorship. Where is freedom? The equality, the freedom that we are talking about, we can't even see in the present scenario. So how are you blaming the past government that the past government restricted the freedom of the people? Yes, suspension of Article 20 and 21 was there, and we learned from our mistakes. And through the 44th Constitutional Amendment 1978, we all decided that it will never be suspended again during any emergency. Mistakes were acknowledged and constitutional safeguards were strengthened. Today, if we see, even without formal emergency, the spirit of Article 21 under government of Narendra Modi, whether it's prolonged detention, internal shutdowns, or restrictions, are affecting personal liberty. When we talk about Indira Gandhi narrowness, We have to think about how the BJP government, without any clear-cut ideology, is controlling the country. Congress believes in one principle above all. Power belongs to the people and democracy must always prevail. The larger question before this House today is, are such incidents absent today? Unfortunately, today serious incidents of violence against women, civilians doesn't have been reported. This shows that law and other challenges are not unique to one period or one goal. So instead of selectively blaming one historical phase, the focus should be on strengthening institutions, ensuring justice and property citizens of all remain.
माननीय अध्यक्ष महोदय, आज मैं इस युवा सदन के समक्ष एक ऐसा विषय पर अपने विचार प्रस्तुत करने के लिए खड़ा हूँ, जो केवल एक इतिहास का पन्ना नहीं, बल्कि भारतीय लोकतंत्र के आधाकरण पर लिखी गई एक चिंतानी है। आपातकाल की 25 वर्ष भारतीय लोकतंत्र ने क्या सीखा? ये चर्चा सिर्फ अतीत को याद करने के लिए नहीं, लेकिन वर्तमान को समझने और भविष्य को सुरक्षित करने के लिए भी है। आज मैं यहाँ इतिहास का गलत दिन को अजागर करने के लिए खड़ा हूँ, जो कभी भूलना नहीं चाहिए। Let us be clear. The emergency of 1975 was not a mistake. It was misuse of power. It was not governance. It was authoritarian control. It was not discipline. It was political fear. It was not stability. It was constitutional suffocation. It was not leadership. It was dictatorship disguised as administration. In 1975, the democracy of India was not attacked by a foreign enemy. It was attacked from within the system itself, where the constitution was silenced, the parliament was weakened, the judiciary was pressured, media was censored, civil liberties were suspended, opposition leaders were jailed, and the voice of the people was crushed under the fuse of power. The emergency of 1975 proved that the greatest threat to democracy is not chaos, but it is concentration of power, not instability, but unchecked authority, not disorder, but political arrogance. When one party, one leadership, and one ideology place themselves over the constitution, democracy dies suddenly. This period also exposed how power can corrupt constitutional morality, how power can replace accountability, and how fear can replace freedom. And the Congress party must take moral responsibility for this third chapter. Because emergency was not imposed by the constitution, it was imposed by the political will. It was a decision of power. It was not a failure of the constitution, it was the failure of those entrusted to protect it. 50 years later, we are not remembering the emergency for sympathy. We are remembering it as a warning that democracy is not self-protecting, a warning that freedom is not permanent, a warning that rights are not guaranteed by papers alone, and a warning that constitutions survive only when citizens defend them. The emergency was the death of democratic ethics, and its memory must be the birth of democratic vigilance, because a nation that forgets its greatest lesson is always prepared to repeat them. जिस देश में लोकतंत्र याद नहीं रहता, वहाँ आपातकाल सिर्फ इतिहास नहीं होता, वो भविष्य का संस्कृत बन जाता है। यह दिन ही लोकतंत्र का शक्ति होता है और भूल जाना है उसका सबसे बड़ा दुश्मन। धन्यवाद।
Lampi.
Honorable Speaker, yes, the emergency was declared during a period of political instability and internal disturbance. But then, Honorable Speaker, history must be viewed in its full context. The emergency was lifted in 1977 election. The Congress lost power peacefully and the Indians voted. The BJP asks us, where was democracy? I asked them, where is freedom of speech when critics are silenced? Where is federalism when elected state governments are destabilized? Where is institutional independence where agencies act selectively? The ruling party asked us about the fundamental rights that was suspended. Yes, it was suspended during the emergency that arose in 1975, but then when you look at the present scenario, we can see that even if there is no emergency involved right now, but there is curtailment of such emergencies such as We can take the instance of during the pandemic of COVID-19, where such fundamental rights, even though they were not fully stopped, but there were like shutdown of institution without proper information, and many things happened. We can question about the Gujarat riots when in 2000, in 2002, when Narendra Modi was the chief minister, where many people were killed, but then when many people were killed. Let us not weaponize history for political gain. History is not used for revenge, but history should be used for learning.
With no further delay, let's just dive into the main topic. The motion accuses it was a murder of democracy. I submit that democracy in India was not destroyed, because if it were, it could not have been restored through elections. The very fact is the 1977 free election proves democratic mechanisms, those strengths were never dismantled. The suspension of civil liberties demonstrated how precious democratic rights are. After the emergency, Indians developed greater appreciation for freedom of speech, expression, and political dissent. Scholars noted that the period served as a reminder of the importance of fundamental rights as the backbone of democracy. Yes, the emergency triggered constitutional amendments and subsequent revisions. The abuses of emergency provisions led to the 44th Amendment in 1978, safeguarding such as requiring a special majority in Parliament to approve emergency proclamations. This change was a direct lesson from 1975 to 77, emphasizing that protecting rights and preventing misuse are intrinsic to healthy democracy. Censorship during emergency taught a powerful lesson. Newspapers like the Indian Express resisted free censorship to show that a vigilant press is essential for accountability. It strengthened public media ethics and reinforced the press role as a guardian of democracy. Although the opposition was suppressed during the emergency, those voices re-emerged with greater force afterward. The Lok Sabha election of 1977 delivered a historic verdict. Citizens rediscovered the power of their votes and the value of constructive dissent, a lesson that continues to shape political engagement today. At 50 years distance, the emergency must be viewed not only through the lens of controversy, but also through its lasting contribution to strengthening Indian democracy. It underscored the meaning of constitutional governance, the necessity of protecting individual freedoms, the role of independent institutions, and the power of the electorate. Most importantly, it taught Indians, especially the youth, who were not born then, that democracy is a living process, one built on active participation, checks and balances, and continuous reform. The Congress government's decision to utilize constitutional mechanism to navigate a tumultuous phase has left us with deep reflection on balancing order with liberty and leadership with accountability. Thank you.
For ruling party members, what was the most challenging moment for you while representing the ruling side of this youth parliament? After this experience, what did you better understand about how difficult it is to run a government? For opposition party members, what did this youth parliament teach you about the role and responsibility of the opposition? Did this experience change the way you look at criticism and debate? How? Common question, anyone can answer. What is the one lesson from this youth parliament that you will carry beyond college?
Thank you for the question. The challenging thought for us while representing the ruling party. We also thinking of our government that what if we also get this kind of mistake in the future. So while representing the ruling party, we are also well aware of that, and then next time we are going to make more aware of that based on the really discussion we have today.
Honorable Speaker, sir, thank you for the opportunity. So, from this Viksit Bharat Youth Parliament, what we learned is that leadership sometimes can be very challenging, and during the leadership, it is not always about enjoying the sweetness, but sometimes we also have to enjoy the sourness that is faced during our tenure. So that is the biggest lesson we have learned today, and it is not easy to carry the responsibility. Thank you.
The one lesson that I learned, and I will carry with you this knowledge is to be courageous, because I think that this havoc, the 1975-1977 havoc was created because of the less courage that the people had in the opposition, the citizens had. And so we need to be courageous, and we need to stand in our right and confront the challenges.
Honorable members, the debate on the motion stands concluded. The chair appreciates the thoughtful, disciplined participation of all the members from both the sides of the House. The proceedings shall now move forward as per the program schedule. It is now my privilege to invite our respected chairperson to kindly address the House.
While we wait for the judges to calculate the marks, we will have a special number by Jang Somba, BA 4th Semester Sociology Department.
Good afternoon, everyone. The song which I will be presenting now is called Man in the Mirror. I'm gonna make a change for once in my life. Gonna feel real good, gonna make a difference, gonna make it right. As I turn up the collar on my favorite winter coat, this wind is blowing my mind. I see the kids in the street, not enough to eat, but we might to be blind, tempting not to see their needs. A summer disregards a broken bottle top and a one-man soul. They follow each other on the wind, you know, 'cause they got nowhere to be. That's why I want you to know. And I'm starting with the man in the mirror, and I'm asking him to change his way. And no message could have been any clearer. If you wanna make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and then make a change. Na 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 na. I've been a victim of a selfish kind of love. This time that I realize there are some with no homes, not a nickel to loan. Would it be really me pretending that you're not alone? A deep blue willow scar, somebody's broken heart, and a washed-out tree. They follow each other on the wind, you see, 'cause they got no place to be. That's why I'm starting with me, and I'm starting with the man in
change.